3 higher ed authors, 100 plus college and university presidents, dozens of actionable insights for academic leaders. Commencement, the beginning of a new era in higher education, is now available on Amazon. Unmuddle helps your community college to drive enrollments and revenue. Community colleges help with workforce development programs to compete on a national and global scale, offering those services to employers. It's time for a new era in higher education. Check out Unmuddle at unmuddle.com/colleges and claim your college for free. Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to EdUp on the EdUp Experience podcast, where we make education your business. Dr. Joe Salustio back with you on another episode, fast approaching number 600. I can't believe it. I was just telling my guest that we're very, very close to our 3-year anniversary, and we're at 550 episodes. If you do the average there, you start to get an idea of how many days I podcast out of a calendar year. It's literally insane. Elvin Freitas, my co-founder and producer, keeps me busy. He has me booked out till the end of April every single day.
Yikes!
But we're going to make it happen here, and we're going to continue on. Of course, you know that we wrote a book called Commencement, the Beginning of a New Era in Higher Education. It came out on Thanksgiving Day in 2022. We have sold a bunch of copies, which is great. It's based on the first 125 presidential episodes we've done with college and university presidents. We think there's a lot of good insight. We'd appreciate your support if you want to pick up a copy. If not, that's okay too. We still love you. And we're going to have a great conversation today about advancing women. And we're going to tell you what that means and why this is an important conversation. But I want to bring my guest in here first. It's just her and I today, which means we're going to have one heck of a conversation. Here she is, ladies and gentlemen. Her name is Kate Watts. She's Executive Director for Advancing Women in Technology. Kate, what's going on?
Hi, thank you so much for having me today. So,
Did you know you were going to get an applause, by the way?
You know, I don't get that every day, so I really appreciate it when I do. So thank you for bringing that joy in.
Well, we want to level set, Kate. And by the way, I've been waiting for this interview, and I think I rescheduled on you once, and then you rescheduled somebody. I think it's been like 60 days out, but we're finally here. Advancing Women in Technology is the organization. What is it? What do you guys do besides the obvious, and how do you do it?
Yeah, of course. So Advancing Women in Tech is a nonprofit organization and community that works to accelerate careers and address diversity gaps in leadership. And we do that within the technology field. And we have a real focus on women in product and engineering roles. And most of our community is made up of people who are more in like the B2B enterprise space in tech. But our approach to being able to help support women advance to the next level of leadership has been, since our founding in 2017, to be really focused on how do you upskill, how do you connect people to supports, navigation of how do you get around a barrier, those who've been there before, and then also have formal supportive mentorship programs. So we're all about elevating the expertise of women leaders, connecting to opportunities, and expanding skills in order to address gaps in leadership in the technology field.
So let's talk about the gaps. Let's identify those gaps first. Are we talking about pay gaps? Are we talking about actual total number of women in leadership positions in technology, or a total lack of women leaders in technology? And what are the gaps? If I just identified every gap without knowing what I'm talking about, are there more?
You have done a great job at identifying a number of the gaps that exist. And if I really think about where we're focused on and where we're seeing them is on the path to leadership in these fields. So if you think of, and I know a number of your listeners would be thinking about like the higher education or career pipeline, and how you go from the top where there's a number of people who are maybe entering at similar levels. Now, historically, you've had fewer and fewer women who have graduated from, say, computer science programs and entered the technology sort of industry to begin with. So there have been gaps in how many people are entering technological roles. And then as you continue to go down or up the pipeline to leadership, you have a number of folks who are jumping out at like mid-career sort of management, aren't being retained at the same sort of levels. And so when you get to the top leaders in the field, they are most likely to be white men, is to be pretty frank. And so where we really focus our attention as an organization is on how do you retain and support and build the potential for women to continue to use their skills to positively build great products at the mid-career level and higher. And so that also just means that we work with people all across the pipeline to be able to empower and enable that work.
Interesting. So if you're a woman leader in tech and you're hitting that mid-management level, you're seeing some exits, is what you're saying, is what I hear you saying. There's some kind of exit that happens. And so one of the ways to prevent that exit is it skills, offering of, skill enhancement? Is it a, I don't know, here's somebody that came before you, so let's connect you with them, kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like apprenticeship?
Some mentorship, sponsorship, support.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it advice? Is it mental health? Is it, what, first of all, why the exit? Why are women leaving tech at the mid level? Is it a lack of career path? And there's so many questions in there that I just asked randomly. So just take them in whatever way you want.
Yeah, there are so many questions and you can't answer for a whole group of people and all of their reasons for why you might choose to leave or stop out at different points. It's sort of like when you think about student success in higher education, people leave for a number of reasons that are all uniquely their own. But when it all comes together and you're noticing a larger sort of exodus of a certain segment of people, you need to think, why is this? Why aren't people progressing in the same rates as others? And so for many, I think it's a lack of representation. How do you see yourself or your leadership style in a place that you have not seen modeled before? It can be some elements of unconscious bias, lack of support. It could be external responsibilities or feeling like this isn't necessarily my priority at this point, or I have something else that I want to be focused on, something that's calling you away. So there's so many individual reasons why an individual might choose to pop out. But if you're thinking about how do you support this at a more systemic way, there's a focus on how do you call attention to the problem to those who aren't necessarily aware of it? So how do you advocate, use data to point to gaps, areas of improvement? How do you enable others to be inclusive leaders, to understand the various priorities of team members, create an inclusive type of environment? And it's also just providing mechanisms for support of the individual women who are going through X sort of transition point, so that individuals realize that other people have seen this before and can help you navigate. Chances are, I'd say at any sort of career transition, you might be feeling like you are going through X alone. You might be questioning your thoughts, your abilities. Is this for me? Am I the right person for this? And in reality, others have been there, and connecting you to somebody who has knowledge of what that feeling is can help you go far. So that's why we try to make such curated connections to help people navigate. And why we're so passionate about this work.
I love it. I wonder, and this is just me being curious, obviously, there are a number of women in any industry that leave to go have a family, if they're going to have kids, or for family responsibilities. Same thing for men on the family responsibility side. But for technology in general, and women who leave a tech career for a family reason and kids and otherwise. And I wonder if that plays some kind of a role of if there is an exit, if a woman is in a technology career and she makes an exit for a family reason and wants to come back 6 months, a year later, and you see how fast technology has moved while you've been out of it, it would be intimidating to re-enter. Do you see that happen? And it doesn't have to be related to family, but somebody who's out that wants to come back in and they go, you know what, I'm not even sure I can do this job anymore because things have transformed so quickly since I've been gone.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think about this too with some of the reasons why AWIT is so focused on providing very timely, career relevant discussions and upskilling opportunities. It's because technology moves so quickly, and you need to be in the know and also feel like, oh, I have a sense of what's going on. I'm capable. I can navigate. I can learn. I'm not behind the curve. So we very intentionally create a number of opportunities for both our membership and the wider community to be able to train and discuss these topics within a trusted community of their peers. And also, we advocate and love to see a number of programs that some of the larger organizations are doing around supporting returnees, being very intentional about thinking through, how do I recruit somebody with perhaps a gap in their resume, some non-traditional experience? What can they bring to the table? And how do we enable people to be able to come in and out of careers at the pace that is best for them and their lives? So you do see some people who end up leaving for various reasons and having a hard time getting back in. And I don't see why there can't be more supports to help women and others who've had to step away from their careers find a path back in, because your skills, your outlook, your leadership orientation does not change when you have necessarily or have stepped away. You haven't lost everything that you've been able to acquire and gain. And so being sure to think about, how do you prioritize positive experiences and learning wherever that learning may have happened is key for us all, both in like higher education, as you think about how do you give credit for prior learning, for instance, or recognize non-traditional experiences with adult learners, but also for companies. How do you recognize
language now?
what like the talent people bring to the table is, no matter how it was acquired?
So what do we, how does this come to be, AWIT? Your founder just decides, you know what, we need to help women in tech, and starts this nonprofit. Was it through partnership? Can you talk about the story of advancing women in tech?
Sure. So I was not around from day one, but I can tell the story as best I can. So
Sure.
Our founder, Nancy Wang, who is currently a director of product and engineering over at AWS, back in 2017 was the first woman product manager with Google Fiber. And
Wow.
She was recognizing that she had ambition and a desire to be able to progress in her career, but was not seeing individuals who looked like her at that next sort of space for mentorship and for advice. And probably being a tech-enabled person, and if you think about the spirit of innovation, and if you don't see what you need, creating it yourself, started to bring together women in similar spaces as her originally in her apartment in San Francisco, eventually globally, for peer-to-peer learning, skill building, and mentorship connections. Through that, was able to build a network and had brought in some more what we refer to as some of our executive ambassadors, women who are farther along on their career journey, who are able to provide their knowledge, expertise to help the next generation navigate their path forward. So from that, the organization really started organically, but it hit a need. And the need was elevating the expertise of women, helping others scale in their leadership and their careers, and finding ways to best tell the story and help people feel like they weren't the onlys in a room, no matter where they were from. So started with that and have grown into the organization that we are today.
Epic. I love it because it's such an important piece of how things come to be is the story. And, you know, extending that story includes finding women in technology or helping those women who are working in technology find AWIT. How do you do that? How do you go about finding women who are, because you have to either find them as they're progressing through their career or when they're entering, and make them aware of the resources that AWIT has. How do you do that? Can you talk about how you get the message out there?
Yeah, so we do it in a couple of different ways. And I think about this for any organization, company, school. You really need to think through what's your mission? Who is your target sort of audience? How are you trying to move the needle? Where do you go about finding them? And also, as you try things out and maybe get a different sort of result from what you were setting out to do, how do you identify how you can best use your resources to continue to advance to that next spot? So I think about that as originally women were finding each other through personal networks, word of mouth, in the cities where we had chapters. And then it turned into websites, events, workshops, some of the traditional, more event-based community building. And then COVID happened, and we know how that has impacted how information is distributed, how people find each other, and what is possible for different organizations. And so we were always online, and that really presented the opportunity to be taking a lot of our workshops and elevations to be able to start producing content that was sponsored by AWS and put it on Coursera, to be able to expand our reach and bring more women and others in the fold, to help people access information about what it looks like to be a product manager or somebody in cloud computing, and gain the skills to be able to access these careers or upskill themselves. So now our Coursera sort of courses have become a huge entry point into our organization as people are looking to build skills and gain the knowledge to be able to get to their next spot. And then we also have traditional partnerships with various technology companies who are looking for better supports for their employee resource groups, opportunities to upskill their talent, and also to be able to demonstrate their support of a more diverse future in leadership for the industry.
Unmuddle's mission is to provide learners, particularly working learners, with multiple pathways to learning and development, with clear signaling as to the time, cost, and uncertainty of each. Unmuddle is powered by community colleges, particularly innovative community colleges, to provide a skills-to-job marketplace. Come join the nation's top community college network today. To get started, go to unmuddle.com/colleges. That's UNMUDL.com/colleges. Hey, do you get schools? I do have a higher ed question for you in a second, but do organizations come to you, your partnerships, your tech partnerships come to you and go, Kate, we need more women in these careers. Do you have a network? Do you have, resources to connect us with women? Because, and the reason I ask, and it's kind of a joint question, is because we talk to higher ed presidents and people all the time, and many of them represent tech colleges, that are technology based, or STEM programs. And one of the most common things that comes up, or two common things: one, there aren't as many women going into these tech careers as anybody would like, and two, there's underrepresented minorities that are not finding their way into technology careers as often as we would like. Are the technology companies themselves going, we need more women, we need people from diverse backgrounds?
Certainly. And I love this question. My background is in higher education, policy and access type of work. So I think about these things a lot and understand it from both avenues, or have perspective. You have a number of industry partners who will say, we want to find somebody with, and also, where do we go? Where do we find them? Is the pipeline doesn't feel like it is large enough. How do we find talent? So I'd say that the competition for individuals with X skill set is something that people reach out to us for all the time. Who in your network has this, that, and another thing, as they're looking for talent. So as you think about, if you're, say, a higher education institution or something looking for partnerships for how do you best support your people, I think about some of these organizations or professional associations like Advancing Women in Tech or others that are very much built for supporting women in or whatever target population, and having that support there to be able to help maintain and move folks forward. And you also have, I'm thinking about the pipeline from multiple perspectives. But yes, there's definitely the industry demand, and there's the want to find more.
And there was industry demand pre-pandemic. There was tons of industry demand during the pandemic. And now, as you get on the other side of COVID, there's, less people are in the workforce, or, there's this whole battle for talent, like the big time battle for talent. Technology companies, retail companies, there just aren't as many good people to hire, it seems like. Now, they're saying that we're recovering and more people are coming back into the workforce, but it has been something to where, as we're talking to higher education college leaders, and they're going, hey, I've got 5 businesses around me just begging me to spit out more graduates because we just can't find enough people to hire. And then you look at technology. I mean, come on, technology. Chat GPT, like the new in AI, it's like exploding. Who's doing all the work? And how could you possibly have enough people to do all of the work when it comes to cybersecurity and all of these things that are just moving ahead of us light years, and we're trying to catch up by putting enough people in the workforce? That must be a problem. It's a problem amongst universities. I know that employers are having a problem finding good talent, and then just getting more people into technology careers, specifically women, is an issue. And it's one hopefully AWIT's going to solve for us, right?
That's our hope, and at least to be contributing to a solution that can help more women access high quality careers in this field. And one of the ways that we're working to do this, recognizing this sort of challenge on all sides of the equation, like if you think about how higher ed is sometimes constrained by what is the ability to create a new program. How much does it cost to bring in X sort of talent? Can they pay industry veterans their sort of salary or piece for high demand industries to be able to create competitive programs and move them forward? Can you move fast enough to be able to meet industry demands? And then also coupled with, on the other end, you have an industry that is looking for, how do we bring in more diverse individuals from backgrounds that we haven't tapped into, from institutions, regions, places that don't necessarily have an education pipeline in place that has many, like, say, cloud computing programs, or this industry already ingrained as a place where people are working and having high quality careers, and individuals are growing up thinking, oh, I will have a career in tech. How do you make these aspirations happen? And then recognizing the opportunity that we had as AWIT with the different courses and materials and industry relevant training that we provide to really be able to nimbly and quickly put out programs that sort of fit that need in the middle. And so one of the things that we've done in this last year is we went through the ACE recommendation process and had our courses evaluated to see, are these up for credit? Is this something that's of value to somebody who would be moving through the field? And what would this look like if it was to be mapped onto a higher education type schedule? And we're thrilled that both our real world product management specialization that prepares for product manager type positions at big tech companies, and our real world cloud product management specialization, which prepares learners for an entry-level certification in cloud computing from AWS. We're both approved for or recommended for 6 levels of credit.
Amazing.
I'm sorry, for 6 credits by ACE. And so we're really seeing this sort of opportunity in the middle as, how do you, A, bring our resources or our expertise taught by diverse women leaders in technology who are already underrepresented to a platform that's very accessible, flexible, able to be incorporated in a learner's time, and then also provide for those who are pursuing a bachelor's degree or an associate's degree, like proof of credit of their progress to be able to move them forward faster. And so that's when you pose the original question,
yeah,
I feel like that's where I'm like, that is almost that magic spot where it's, how do you partner with and enable and use the resources that you have at your disposal to go, how can we open up the door for others and be able to provide something that's of value to them, as whether that be to the student who is needing some credit, an inexpensive way and relevant way to be able to try out and get exposure to some new career skills, whether that be a higher education partner that is thinking, can we quickly provide these industry relevant trainings that are maybe for industries that aren't even in our area yet or are to come? How can we form connections with, relationships with, and be able to provide access at a low cost sort of supported option to our students who are in need of this talent or in need of these opportunities now? And for us, how can we further elevate the expertise and the skills of women in our network and show that they are what's next? So
yes.
that was a long answer, but you got me on something that I care deeply about, and
I'm glad you gave a long answer. It's an important answer, and it brings up what I think is my final question for today, and it's one that is just so interesting right now with all the different offerings for education, and sometimes you're adult student, working learner, and so on. But it's this skills versus degree argument that goes on within the hallways of higher education. Do we have a skill economy, or do we have a degreed economy, a degreed student, a worker? And what are these people taking when it comes to educational opportunities? Why are they taking these particular types of educational opportunities? What do you see? Maybe not advise, because I think every person probably is taking a different pathway, but what do you see? Or particularly for women in tech, are they interested in the skill stacking do you have talks, or women interested in, hey, I do want to get a degree in X, and where do I go, and what resources do you have to help me? Or
Mhm.
is it, is it the Google certs and the Pythons and those things that you stack, 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 get a job, and then you wait till your employer pays for you to go back to college? Like, what are you guys seeing with trends?
Yeah, I'm going to answer this question pretty frankly and call out that if any of my former colleagues from my time working in higher ed policy in Tennessee were to hear me, they might be surprised with my answer. As I originally, I'm a liberal arts graduate myself and was always pretty vocal about we can't just be going for skills. Like education needs to be holistic and available to all. And I early in my career had a very set vision of what I thought that looked like. And as I've gone farther on this work and have explored it deeply, I think the more you think about something, the less you know. The
Mm-hmm.
more you're willing
I
to
think about
see
my
how
podcast all the time, so that tells you how good of a host I am, just for the record.
yeah. My answer right now, it's a both and it's what is right for an individual at that moment in their life. And for us as people who are supporting, how do you make things available and flexible to be able to meet learners where they are and prepare them for where they need to go? So with
Yes.
that, so with that, I think of how most of our learners and most where I think that this is really going is people are lifelong learners. We are working with some who are early and are just looking for an initial skill to jump into place. But it's a it's a it's another sort of space to augment whatever your degree or professional study was. It's you're continuing to learn. You're never done. And we should never think about higher education or credentialing or learning as a target that has an end date, because we want individuals to be engaged with thinking about and continuing to elevate their thoughts and space that they have in their head and how they are using their talents to fix whatever problems they see in the world and create the future that they want to be in. So I think about like the opportunities with credentials like what we provide and supportive networks of others like you as being X school, chances are might not be able to pull up a program in this, but hey, we can make it available for you to augment and continue to pursue your interests as when you are in this learning environment. There's no reason why we need to have such walls over when learning is going to happen, how it happens, and at what stage of life it happens in. And I think that's really such a beauty of the shorter term, like credentialing sorts of processes and the stackability of learning that it's allowed for this discussion to be expanded.
I love your word augment. That's such a good word, right? Augmented learning, where you're taking bits of pieces of things and putting together. It's funny because I'm writing this article for this publication, and I use the word hack. I like the word hack a lot.
Mhm.
Not as in hacking a system, because that would be illegal, but I'm talking about hacking, like learner hacking. And you
Mhm.
do have learners, working learners in particular, there's expectations of hacking the traditional higher education model, degree model. I want credit for prior learning, like you talked about. I want this class that I took that has meaning to me to count for something else if I decide to do the something else later. That's really important to me, even though I don't need that credit right now. I might want it later, and I should be deserving of that because of the work I put in. The
Mhm.
social media is all about hacking. ChatGPT is about hacking, and YouTube. How many of us tried to put something together and read 10 pages of directions or looked up the video on YouTube? I mean, everything
Mhm.
is about doing it faster, more relevant, more timely. It's the point in time learning that you're talking about, which is what we talk about here a lot on EdUp, is the lifetime, the lifetime learner. And
Mhm.
You're always going to try to hack your way. One less click, one thing faster when I need it now, because you can get what you want to eat for dinner right now. You could get
Mhm.
what you want to want a package later today. You could probably get it if you wanted to, if you order it fast enough from an online store. Why can't you get your learning when you need it? That's
Yeah.
such a critical point.
And it also presents such an opportunity for educational institutions and organizations that are professional, say networks or communities like Advancing Women in Tech, as how do you create the ideal community to be able to encourage that learning and have it not happen in an individual vacuum, but be able to be applicable, um, connected to others in the space, and iterated through connections with others. So it's not just here you are in your bedroom watching something late at night on YouTube. That might be able to help you complete the next assignment. But if you're really wanting to go far and build out your network, build out your relationships, how do you tap into the various spaces where humans are connecting and learning and creating together? And there's spaces like that all over the space. I'd say for women who are looking to get into tech, or those who are looking to get to the next spot, AWIT's a perfect example of that. For others, it can be the college that you're attending. It can be whatever professional association or learning community. There's a lot out there that can
LinkedIn.
support learning.
Yeah. I mean, even LinkedIn is its own learning community if you use it right.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, Kate, this is awesome. I hope we did honor Advancing Women in Tech and your founder by having this conversation that's so important. I mean, we need more women in technology, and you're providing them the resources and pathways to get there, and that's appreciated. Mentorship is such a huge part of this too, and I know you have a part on your website about mentorship. Anything else you want to say, Kate, about AWIT before we close out the episode? Plug anything that's going on or anything you want to say?
Certainly. So for this audience, I would just say I welcome your feedback and thoughts on how we can best partner and support you all in your needs. And that we are thrilled that we are launching a new community to be able to support learners and who are moving through our courses that I mentioned earlier, the ones that are ACE recommended in product management and cloud product management, to better connect them to mentors who are in the field in product management and cloud enabled roles. So would love for you to check that out, and yeah, continue to look outside for inspiration and opportunities to better serve students and learners as they move through the journey.
I love it. Well done. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another incredible episode of the EdUp Experience podcast with my guest today. Her name is Kate Watts. She's Executive Director of Advancing Women in Tech, and she is amazing. Kate, did you have a good experience here on EdUp today?
Yeah, it was so fun to talk about things I care so much about. Thank you.
Well, we appreciate you, ladies and gentlemen. You've just EdUp'd. Unmuddle helps your community college to drive enrollments and revenue. Community colleges help with workforce development programs to compete on a national and global scale, offering those services to employers. It's time for a new era in higher education. Check out Unmuddle at unmuddle.com/colleges and claim your college for free.